Oh, can you? Sorry. No, I have my WhatsApp web WhatsApp open. Can you hear the click when I receive message from the WhatsApp? I will close it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. I just because today I will do I have now a bad shoulder. I don't know why. It's in jiu-jitsu training. It injured, and I have to go to do some resonance to see what happened inside. So I just close it. I just close it. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, we communication. Yeah. All right. Thank you for having me again. It's really good to be back. Thanks, Kin. Yeah, a lot of things change. I think 4 years from now, but I think the most important thing that changed for us is our kids are growing, because 4 years ago we have only one kid, Pedro, 5 years now. At the time he had 1 year, and then born the second one, Alice. Now she had 3 years old. I think me and my wife we are still learning this parenthood. It has been really challenge. We have ups and downs, but what we can see now, they stood in regular schools, public schools here in the city that we live, and it has been really hard to help them to track the right pathway. Teaching them principles, Christ-centric associations during their lifetime. So we feel really glad and joyful to do it, but we feel really challenged to do it. So I think it's a learning process, especially because I was take a look in some papers, and a lot of new discoveries about these neurons we have in hippocampus. It called mirror neurons. You're familiar with, right? It, oh, yeah, in pedagogy it's well known. This type of neurons, they are specialized in imitating behavior. So I was talking about a friend of mine yesterday about it, about how people who tries to imitate Christ use those neurons. He was saw in some podcast, and he was asking me if the person who was speaking was a neuroscientist, if I'm agree with his statements or not. And these neurons are really important, especially when you are developing our personality, especially during the childhood and until the, let's say, the late 50s. uh, they are really engaged in learning processes. So kids with 3 years old uses a lot it. So me and my wife, we try to help them to have this emotional intelligent development. So how they deal with their when they are frustrated. For instance, Pedro loves to play with Lego. Lego is like that. You building blocks, and so he's get really frustrated sometimes because it's complex. The Lego that he uses the smallest one. Even for me, sometimes it's harder to follow the manual. And we help them with our words. We say you should do it, you should not do it, calm down, relax. But many times our behavior are different than that. So it's like we are saying things, but you're not doing the things that we are saying. So I think this is what has been challenging us most, because we need to be an example so they can copy our behavior, and they absorb a lot of things. So many times we understand that we are not behave properly in relation to our kids. So no, stop to complain. We should stop to complain. Many times we here is interesting. I not go much further with that, but I think it's interesting. Here in Santo Antonio, we have kind of different. It's not official, but we have different rules in traffic. uh, it's a traffic culture, I think, because here many people, I believe that many people don't have their license to drive, because there is no no fiscalization. There's no policy to cover these traffic issues. So it's more people do what they want. And for instance, people don't use the light to sign when they go to left or right. I mean, it's very rare that someone use that light. So they just suddenly turn. And I mean, this is different where the city that I used to live, were a big city. No, the traffic is jammed, but people use this sign so you can communicate better. And here I get really angry with that. It makes me angry. Say, come on. Sometimes people stop in the middle of the road. I just stop here. So it's very interesting. It's a mentality they have here. It's not a small city. We have almost 50,000 people living here, but the traffic is very, uh, I mean, very poor understood. I mean, people don't know the rules. And I have to control myself many times, And it's interesting. We are watching Star Wars. My son loves Star Wars, and there's an episode where Yoda is fighting against his angry. It's like the Yoda and like a dark cloud Yoda, like more aggressive and scary, but it represents his angry. So they are fighting together, and Yoda realized in the middle of the fight that as more his strength he put a lot of energy in fight, he understands that his anger gets stronger. So he realized in some way that he needs to calm down and accept that he is angry and he feel angry towards people. And he said the final dialogue between this fight is, I accept you, but you're not controlling myself. I'm control you. So it's become like a mantra for me and Pedro because we watch together. So every time I am angry in the traffic, he said to me, "Don't let your anger controls you." And I talk to him, you know. Talking one thing and doing is different. So we are learning how to do it. You know, it's very good. Yeah, this is a great question, by the way, because it's at least in Brazil and Latin America, I think in general, but in Brazil, I remember that a couple years ago there was a government slogan about how education will transform the reality in the country. So it's a slogan that reflects that the government will invest a lot of money, and they did. They opened a lot of universities and they invest in schools and technology and so on. And this is good because this is actually changed their lives, the people lives, because they have more knowledge, so they could have better jobs, so they could escape from misery, and they could have a decent life, a decent house, and conditions to raise their kids. And this is good. But for a long time, I think people were looking at education only in terms of let's give information for the students, that give them knowledge to use to develop their professors, the professions, their skills, and so on. And I mean, not wrong about it, this is good, but there is more in education. For instance, there is a theory, probably you hear about this one. It's the uh, transformative learning theory from Jack Misro, John Dewey. I think they use a lot of Paulo Freire as well, and Jean Piaget. You familiar with this theory? This is very interesting because this theory is to help people to become more critic in terms of thinking about reality, so not fall for any fake news, so to judge things based on a knowledge that they know that's trustable. And of course, it involves some kind of self detachment, so be less selfish, so human flourishing in general. So you became a better person, and this is good. You establish moral values, principles. This is a secular theory, but it's very good. But there is another theory that I think it's very important for us. Another type of education, let's put that way. Uh, and I will change the page. Sorry about that. Okay, which is the transformational education that we are dealing daily in Teach Beyond. And of course, the difference is this is a Christ centered education. So it's different from the secular education. And it's interesting to me that when you talk about the power of education to transform lives, we see that God creates our brains uh, and create processes in our brains, such as the neuroplasticity. You know, you're familiar with the term plasticity? It means that our neurons, that are the cells in our brain, we call neurons, has the possibility to change and hire in the different shapes. So changing your worldview, your personality, your identity. So it's very, life is made for us to have changes and be transformed along the road. So all these mechanisms, the neural mechanisms involved in education, both in informational education, the one that teach you how to have a lot of knowledge to be an engineer, a medical doctor, or something like that, or the transformative learning, which help you to become a better person, more altruist, less selfish, and make an impact in your community. And also the transformational education, the one it's based on Christ. This use those mechanisms we have in our brains, but only one of them, and I think this is what matters in transformational education, is the one that are connected to this spiritual reality. And we are spiritual beings, and I think science has a lot of interesting features that are showing that. For instance, just since you like some science information, I was reading a paper about people that dying, people just they die during the electromagnet, no, it's not electromagnetic resonance, was electroencephalogram, is another type of exam. You can see brain waves, brain waves, brain activity. uh, it's a very very common use, and they noticed when six people in this paper died during this event, and half of them, three of them, still have brain activity even after they die. So for 15 minutes after the medical doctors declare the death, because the heart stopped beating, the blood stop to flowing, and the cells in our body stopped working. Right? There's a lot of processing going on when people are dying, apoptosis and other processes that are preparing our body to. But their brains, three of them, their brains were keeping working. And it's interesting because the area of the brain that was activated was one, the hippocampus, the one connected to the memories. So it's like they are, we can say that they are revisiting their lives and their memories for 15 minutes after dying. And another area is the temporal lobe. Temporal lobe is like in both sides, but in the sideway in our heads, and they have cells in temporal lobes, specialized cells called concept cells, which are neurons that are engaged to giving meaning to our experience. So every time I live something, these neurons correlate that new experience with my previous knowledge. So you see, it's like they are revisiting their lives, activating their memories, and giving meaning to those memories. But they already died. There is no experience anymore. So I think this is very interesting because the authors they are all atheists. So the conclusion was really discreet about it. They said that it might be happening that their life after death really exists, but not go further than that because it's not a scientific matter. But we as Christians and as a scientist, I think this is very interesting because I think the neuroscience is going further in this spiritual dimension, and this is why I think neuroscience is really well connected with transformational education. And I think one day we have more results, not reducing, of course, the spirituality and Christ to our brain activity, but to understand the effects in our brain when we live this spiritual reality. Yeah, this is also great questions because when you talk about neuroscience, usually you think about hard science, and we exclude the spirituality dimensions and effects of it. A lot of papers are showing that praying, for instance, has very good benefits to our brain. So, promote well-being and healthy. But I think Christian spirituality is much deeper than that because of theology. So I was wondering. This is my ideas, okay? This is not scientific proved, but I think one day maybe. I understand that we have this. We are one species. We are Homo sapiens, right? Biologically speaking, but I think we have three different species in terms of spirituality. See if you agree with me. I'm still working on it, but before the fall, Adam and Eve, they were a different species in terms of spirituality. I call it Divinus because of the Latin word for it means I try to understand their mind. But see, imagine they are walking in the garden and see things, and everything is connected to God. And you see that there is no good and evil in this part of humankind history because everything was good. I mean, there was the serpent in the garden, but they see the reality. They receive the good from God. They not judge this is good or this is bad. And I think the falling, when they fall in the sin because they were trapped by the serpent, when the serpent say, okay, what God told you about the garden, you can eat freely everything. And Eva just told, no, no, we can eat from everything, but only not from that tree, from the good and evil. Uh, and the serpent said, no, no, you can eat from that because it's good. You can be like God. You can have the knowledge for the good and evil. So this independent search from the humankind, it seems that this changed their minds because Eva start to looking at the fruit and say, okay, this fruit looks good. So she start to desire that. And I think the same for Adam. So I think when they finally falling in this trap from the serpent, we became Homo sapiens because we have the knowledge. The knowledge is not good. I mean, the knowledge is not bad. Knowledge is good. But to define what's good and evil, this is not what God created us to do. So we became Homo sapiens. And I was reading in the church in the service in last Sunday about Romans 8, chapter 8, verse 28, that tells that everything uh, let me try to remember this verse because it's very interesting to. Yeah, that one, and call it according his purpose. Perfect. This one, Heather. Perfect. And I was looking in the Greek, the word good, the translation, it's agathon is the word in Greek that Paul's right. And agathon doesn't mean necessarily that things are good or bad. It's different. It means good in the moral sense. And agathon means something that is conforming you to your life purpose. So to promote uh, plenitude, to promote ending in your life. So conform you to the image of Christ. And so good in that sense is something that make you more like Christ. And I remember that the movie that I was watching with my son, Kung Fu Panda. I don't know if the name is the same in English. You know, it's a very interesting movie. It's not Christian, but I remember there is one scene that Po, the main character, was getting to Master Uguay, which is the wise turtle, and he said, "I have really bad news." And Uguay said, "There is no bad news. There is only news." So good and bad is not for us to judge. I think it's very interesting connection. So I think Homo sapiens is another way of existence. So we feel our reality and our experience differently than Homo divinus, Adam and Eve. But as God created everything so perfect and our brain is made to be transformed, in Christ we became a new species, spiritually speaking. And I call this, some people call Homo spiritualis, but also it can be Homo Christ. I still try to find in the better name to call it. But it's like we not come back to the beginning, but we develop a new kind of conscience, a conscience of Christ. And this is very important because it means that I call this the master mnemonic trace. Is another theory that I'm working on it, and it's like we have some neurons that store information, but this information is about not only Christ but the love of God, the agape love, the sacrificial love. And this is a master mnemonic trace because every other memory, every other life experience I have will be connected to this mnemonic trace. So this will be influence how I form new memories and how I see the reality. And I think in Christ we can be redeemed. The cognitive systems are being redeemed, are be again put in the right way, not equal as we were in Adam and Eve, but in the way that we can follow the narrow pathway with Christ and imitate Him. So I think these three types of minds reflects three types of species, uh, and I think this is the way that we are supposed to go once we have Christ living on us. But you see, is sorry. No, because it's amazing because it's the same brain. The brain not changes anatomically or physiologically. It's the same brain, but the way that the brain operates and interact with reality it changes because of the conscience. Yes, yes. No, this is a great question, King, because you see, there is a lot of theories about how we create our identity, our sense of our identity. But one of the most popular ones, I think one is very interesting, is memories are gradually creating our, we call referential self. So you have the so-called autobiographical memories. Did you ever see that movie called Inside Out? You know, it's an animation movie. It's very nice. I mean, because it shows that they have they call core new, memories. So the happiness was really trying to avoid sad memories in the core memory because it's the memory that are connected to your identity. So We have the autobiographic memories, that are memories that are shaping who you are, and we are what our experience lead us to be. We are a result of our experience. So these autobiographic memories could be two different types. They call episodic autobiographic memories, which is the one related to the memories that I'm part of it, like my wedding ceremony or a graduation ceremony or a birthday party, something that I'm on it. This type of memory are stronger because there is more emotional input on that. So emotion regulates how strong the memory is consolidated, and these memories are shaping my identity. But also another type of memory is called semantic memories. So autobiographic semantic memories is a memory that are related to knowledge, general knowledge, what I learned in classroom, in the biology, chemistry, so on. When somebody tell me about some place, so for instance, well, Japan is a nice place to visit. I saw Heather images from Japan, uh, so she told me, yeah, it's a good place to go. I never been there, but I know that's good because according to her experience, she give me some knowledge about it, so I can use this knowledge also to build my own knowledge, and my identity is forming based on what, not only what I do and live and experience, but what people say about me. So self-esteem is very related to that. So it's a social influence forming my identity, especially for teenagers. This is important. So with the time, these memories are forming the conceptual self, is the my self-imaging, who I think I am, and my values, my beliefs, everything is there. So my actions will be based in this concept self. So you see, usually this happen in the uh, horizontal way, right? We live our lives and we have experience and we form our identity. But in Christ is different. It's a different identity because it's more uh, transversal way. So we have vertical. Sorry, yes, I did with that. Vertical, vertical way, because then I have a God that incarnates in a man, Jesus Christ, and I learn from him, not only with my personal experience, because he's living on me, so he can tell me to do things or not to do things. I have his voice in the back of my mind, so I understand what is bad, what is wrong. But also because I read the Bible, I go to the churches, so I learn theology in general. So all the semantic and episodic memories are forming who I am. And I think this is a very good way to understand how Christian identity is formed, because we have this other transversal relation with God. It's not only our lives and our experience that shape us. I think we're going to talk about that in more details and talk about traumas and how this is connected to our identity. But this is a good way to see Christian identity as different in opposite from identity that made in a secular ways. Exactly, exactly. It's even because when you are reading the Bible, yourself are being projected to the Bible histories. But what happened is the other way around as well. The Bible and the histories, the characters in the Bible, what Christ teaches is being projected to ourselves. So we have this uh, theologically we call the union with Christ doctrine, right? So it's like Christ living in me and I live in my life, but I can see reality through the eyes of Christ. And I think this is important because when you talk about conscience, because there is a theory about conscience that is very well accepted, and one of the best ones is called global workspace. It's like theory as a part of a memory system, a conscience as a part of memory system, in the way that conscience will be like a beak of light, a flashlight that shines the memories. So where my conscience is going is the memory that is being accessed and put in the stage for my brain interact with these memories. So I can have my, as a Homo sapiens, this species, I have my myself and my own conscience to understand my memories. So give meaning, give the emotions and all those things. But in Christ, I have a kind of eternal conscience that transcends my nature. So I can see through the love of Christ the same event, the same memory, but I have different meaning and different emotion connected. And this is the identity that is forming. I don't know if you got the point, but this conscience made a completely different identity. Exactly, exactly the worldview. Yes, the worldview is about that, and it makes sense neurologically because you see, we can understand things from a transcendent God, a God that is there in the eternity and not reachable. But when God became a man and incarnate as a man to shows the way, we can create we call a referential self, because we have the conceptual self, the social self, and the referential self is the one that I can relate it with. So God teaches things through Christ because I can use his referential self to guide my way. And then looking things through the eyes of Christ, instead me, Paulo, looking some memory, some bad thing that happened to me, Christ is looking that. So it's completely different meaning I have through my life experience because the lens change. And I think this could be a very nice thing to explore scientifically speaking. Mhm. Wow, this is very important because usually, I'm glad you asked that, Heather, because usually when you talk, I'm doing it a lot. When you talk about neuroscience, you talk a lot about theories, right? So, okay, we have how brain works, and so a lot of knowledge, but there is no many practical applications for that knowledge because the school teachers, they are not accessing this type of information, academic information. And the academic people do not understand what it's like to be a teacher, they daily fights. So it's very good to try to I like to try to connect this knowledge. This is, I think, part of my ministry to bring some light based on knowledge and see how applicable it is in a real life, because many of this knowledge, I mean, will be not work for classrooms, but some of them will be helpful for teachers, and you should evaluate which ones will be good and others will be not so good. But I think in practical terms, this emotional connection between teachers and students is very important. This respectful, this kind of when students admire the teachers, because there is something in the teacher that remind myself. So I like this thing in the teacher, but you can see that the teacher is still developing that and have morals and have principles, and this it's what emotional connection can brings. Because you remember, I was talking about Jesus as a referential self. This is this is a mind mechanisms. Everybody could become a referential self. My father, my teacher, everyone that I admired. But it means that when I have this sense of admiration, I can give credibility of what people are saying. So I see that is like me as a father. When I say things to my son and try to teach him what to do, what not to do, if I act like I'm doing, I'm not a hypocrite, and I doing things that I say that is good to do, I start to get this sense of credibility. And my son say, okay, this guy, my father, he's doing that. He's still living that truth. And this is, I think, for church is very important. So we talk about Christ, but we live like Christ as well. And in classroom, this is very important because this identification that the students have in teachers lead to credibility and what we call intellectual humility, or we can also call cognitive flexibility. Is how I see. I have my worldview, I have my perspective, I have my life and my knowledge, but this teacher, he's a nice person, and what he's saying to me might be useful to my life, so I can use this knowledge to build my identity, so as a referential self. So this emotional connection, it's, I mean, it's a must in classroom, because otherwise we'll be just, a person talk about subject that I don't like much, I not engage with that. So this in Brazil is a very problematic case now. The formal teaching, like you have to study biology, chemistry, geography, and so on, the students not see relation with their own interest in their lives with that. So this is make their evade the school and find another things that they found more interesting. So emotional connection, kind of discipleship, is important. And I think also giving tools to the school teachers to know their students, so create opportunity or mechanisms to understand what the student like, how is like his personality. We create some not long time ago we create some diagnosis to try to understand the way that students learn best, their learning preferences, their personalities, and their previous knowledge. So what they know already for you to build new and no, new information, but based on this previous knowledge. So I think these two things are quite important: emotional connection and knowing each other. So relationship, and I think this neuroscience point that these are very important for education. I'm sorry, just turn the page. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a lot of new research in education using a methodology they call NIRS. It stands for near infrared spectroscopy. It detects the red bloods now with transport oxygen, and you can see which area of the brain has been engaged when you are learning something. It's a portable device, so you can take it everywhere. You have this helmet, which is not big, it's comfortable to use, and for instance, they are showing that there's kind of a synchronization between school teachers brains when they are teaching, or when they are interacting with the students, and students brain. So you see, this is a little bit in the border of knowledge now, but it seems that the brains, when you have relationship with someone, not only romantic relationship, but relationship of admiration, of friendship, you have a kind of synchronized activity in the cortex. So it's like you create a brain signature of interaction, and this technique is showing that. I think this is very interesting because people already know that it's important to have communication and live in community, but science and neuroscience especially are showing the effects on the brain, not reducing everything to brain activity, but showing what happened in the brain of people that are being transformed. And I think this is very nice. We can use it as a tool. Yeah, this perfect. That this is an awesome question because this is important because sometimes students behave in different ways and teachers don't know why. But some the traumas are really important thing to address in classrooms. You see, I was reading another publication I like to talk about because I always reading articles. So one article I think is from Harvard people. They said that the traumas can go on through generations to at least three generations by they call epigenetic mechanisms. So it's like the way of being because trauma is part of our identity, right? Because it's a very strong memory and you create behaviors and you have a lot of triggers that are related to that trauma. So this change the way your brain operates. I think this particular paper are showing about the effects of resilience. So people has been traumatized is like creating a signature in the brain, the way that brain process reality and the way the brain interact with people and reality around the person, and how resilience could try to put the brain together again and help to deal with traumas. But it's important to know about it that memory has different components. So you have at least three different components. You have the context, the information you acquire by your what you hear, what you see, what you smell, your sense organs, how you are acquire those information, which is stored in hippocampus mainly. But you have the emotion that is connected to the feelings. So usually emotions that are both for good or for bad, but strong emotions make strong memories, and you have the meaning of that experience. Remember that concept cells I spoke earlier? So that concept cells are mainly giving the meaning of your experience. So connecting your new experience to your mental schema, to your life experience, how it makes sense to you as a person. And this is and we still have, because the context and the emotion is like a first order processing. So you just feel it like no intuitively, instinctively. It's natural. So you feel and you see as you live. So then in the thinking, the reasoning, and the meaning became as a second order processing. And you still have they call metacognition. It's thinking about thinking. It's like a third order. So we have more or less three orders. So it's interesting because God creates this our brain and the way the brain store memory in the way that we can be transformed. Because you see, when you're looking against for traumas, people that suffering uh, bad abuse during childhood in the schools, so therapeutically we can go there. Biblical counseling do it a lot, and secular therapies do it a lot. So you can access that memory, that traumatic memory, and you can have the emotional arousal from that experience, and you have the meaning. You cannot change never the context because the context is unchangeable. It's what you live. You lost the details during the time, but it's important to keep the information. But the meaning and the emotion can be changed. And it's interesting because when you suffer the trauma, when you consolidate that memory, the consolidation as a process that the memory gets stored, you have the emotional aspect giving the meaning of the experience. I don't know if you got it, but our first life experience will be more guides by what we feel than the meaning it has. So the feeling creates the meaning. It makes sense to you? But when you reactivate that memory, we call this reconsolidation, is a second process, different than consolidation, biologically, physiologically different. It's not the emotion that leads to the meaning, it's the meaning that leads to the emotion. And this is interesting because therapeutically we can change the meaning. You can have, as King said, another conscience, another lens to look at the same fact, not mine, but from Christ, because I have his as referential self, and I have his ways, his love to look at the same memory. And you can change when you do it. You can change the emotion that the memory brings to you, and you can reformulate based on that the meaning, what that represent to you. When you spoke about Romans 8:28, that things cooperate for the ones who love God according to their purpose. Remember the word agathon. Good is not good and evil as we judge. but is good is something that make you more connected to Christ, has more values like Christ. So this could be used to change, this kind of information might be used to change the meaning of that bad experience. And if you change the meaning, if you understand that this is became part of who you are, and you look at that with love of Christ, you change the way you feel that same memory. So you can forgive yourself, you can forgive others. I mean, this is therapeutically, when you talk about traumas, this is very important. And I think classroom is a good environment to work with that. And so I think traumas is something that this emotional intelligence, I think people used to call it, is something that should be more connected to the teaching methodologies, because it's something that is good for kids, for students, and for the human flourishing and for the maturity in Christ. I'm Yeah, I don't hear anything. Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. I think that there is something that God loves most, which is the free we have to do our will. So I think I believe in free will, but I believe we can make choices, we can choose things and judge things based on our nature. So let's say I hate a bad word, but okay, there's a flavor. I tried in Mexico. There's a ice cream with spicy and sweet. And I don't like it, you know. But this is part of my nature. So every time I go to some place to eat some ice cream, if that flavor will be there, naturally I don't like it. I will not choose that. So you see, you have a spectrum of chooses based off your nature, and I think we are limited to that spectrum, biologically speaking, because my nature define what I like and what I not like. I think Christ releases us, is my like make us free from that nature. So it's like it look like a paradox, but we can choose things that we are naturally not choose to do. So we are free to forgive. Biologically, it's very interesting. There is a paper, another paper that shows that when you have a gratitude, when you feel and experience gratitude in our brain, is like a neural signature. There's a neural pattern of activation that is completely in opposite when we feel pride. When you feel pride of something, the mechanisms are they are like excluded one each other. So or I feel pride or I feel grateful. I can feel both at the same time. So I think we have a very little possibility for choose based on our natural sins. The Homo sapiens is limited to the choices because we have our nature. But when you transcend that nature, we are free to choose things that we are naturally not choose. Could be an ice cream flavor, could be forgive, could be accept. You know, this is why I think as a new creature, spiritually speaking, because you can do things and do these things, we live a different reality, the kingdom of God, which is transcendent, right? So you see things because you have a different lens. I think neurologically it's very easy to show that. And together with that, we can show that we have free to do it, but only in Christ. Because it's a spiritual thing, it's not a natural thing. All right, thank you, Heather. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think, I mean, it sounds strange, but I think a good way to start it, it's my book. Uh, I published a book last year, and I think this book is at the top of my knowledge. Is the only book we have now that connect neuroscience with Christian learning. I mean, there's a lot of neuroscience related to learning, but this spiritual gain dimension is something rare to see. So I think this book is where I try to put all the neuroscience knowledge applying for classrooms in more, I would say, there is not much practice guidance, but it's more a theoretical way. But based on this book, I create these courses for school teachers. So this is, I think, this is now my missionary life is kind to get together, because 4 years ago I still don't have it. I don't have the book. I don't have the courses. I don't know what to do. But I think God was putting in my heart that I should produce material, and I should go to this classroom environment to understand their reality and try to. This is the idea. It's like a circle, you know. The idea to have people that are doing science in Teach Beyond and publishing papers or books or videos or content in general are important, because we are going to the place that teachers are teaching their work, and you can apply this knowledge, and this application could generate more knowledge to go back to the research level. So I think the book is a good way to start it, because it's a they have 15 chapters, so it's a long book, but it's very theoretical. And then we can have these courses, the trainment courses, focusing on teachers' well-being. This in Brazil, this is a really big demand, because now classrooms has a lot of technology. EA is going on, so people are using a lot of EA, and measuring brains is great. We can see things, but the most important tool and the most important thing in classroom is the teacher, is the human being, because it's about relationship, and you can do it with the machine. So here the teachers are getting sick, because I mean the students, they don't want to learn. I mean, for public schools here. So the reality is very sad, because teachers are getting burnout, anxiety, depression. So they are going out from schools and from classrooms, and we need to invest in teachers. So one of these courses is for the school teachers, and they're focusing on their well-being, their mental health. So we give tools to help them with emotional intelligence and existential intelligence. And I have another courses for parents based on neuroeducation, Christocentric. So this is something that for me is good, because it's something that I'm living on nowadays. And I think, I mean, from the top of my knowledge, there is some good neuroscientists that are Christians, so develop material, but not specifically from education. So I think this material is specifically from this subject that we are talking about: how educate our kids and the students in the way that they learn how Christ is and how to copy Christ in their lives. Oh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, mm-hmm. Great. No, no, perfect. It's great, because knowledge, I mean, the novelty is what triggers, is a boundary condition for reconsolidation. Do you remember? Reconsolidation is when you reactivate a consolidate memory. So if there is, uh okay, okay, okay. uh Well, it might be introduce novelty in classroom is a great tool to engage students, not only because it activate their brains and their attention will be focusing. Because you see, there is a theory it called the free energy principle. It's a very well established theory in neuroscience from a physics point of view. It seems that our brain is always make predictions of reality, so we can see the reality from inside out. So we make predictions and you see those predictions happening. And as more as our we predict is connected to the reality, the prediction is a good prediction. So it happens exactly what I think will happen. My brain start thinking in terms of activity. There is nothing new to be learned, so the brain's kind of accommodated, you know. So if the classes are always the same, the students are making predictions and they are accepting those predictions, they are making right, the predictions is very well accurate, it means that their brain are not engaged in the student process. So novelty will be something that will make the prediction error. So okay, these predictions, I thought that the teacher will be like that, but he's different, and I like that because it triggers a reconsolidation process. Is especially when you are dealing with people that were traumatized, is important to reactivate memories and to change that memories. So reconsolidation is a must in this process, and novelty is what triggers reconsolidation. So yeah, changing the dynamics of classes is very important, very interesting to do, and change the subject and talk about something that people are not expecting. This also bring the attention back because you remember the brain is programmed to make predictions, and to do the predictions the brain needs to go back to your past to take memories of your life experience and say, okay, I lived something similar than that, so I believe that this memory might be happening in the future, so this is a prediction, right? So who do it? Who do that? Who does this movement is the conscience as a spotlight. So I can be sitting here talking to you, but I can thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch. Let's say, so I'm here speaking and cognitive engaging, but my conscience is not here anymore. With this has happened a lot in classrooms. You can see as a teacher, you see that the kids, and this is good. Another paper just to is very interesting. This one, it's a very new one. It's from this year. They are studying students with TD, you know, the deficit of attention. How to say that? ADHD. Okay, AD. What stands for ADHD? Hyper. Yes, yes. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm now learning Spanish because I no no. But this is interesting. Yeah, because I learned in Spanish and my brain still try to find. We call TDAH. It's déficit de atenção e hiperatividade. Or atenção é de déficit. Okay, let's keep it. So they are studying students that were diagnosed with this deficit of attention. So they are seeing by electroencephalogram that they do what we call daydreaming. Daydreaming is like when you are there, but you are thinking something else. Your conscience is not there. We call it as well mind wandering. It's like, you know, your mind is this is and what happens in the brain is this brings low brain waves. Low brain waves is like beta frequencies when you are sleeping, you know, the random eye movement, the deep sleep, your brain is producing beta waves, so it's like you're dreaming, and you can have the same wave pattern when you are wake up. So and people that has this attention disorder, they are showing that happen a lot of times. So novelty is something that help to bring the attention and to increase these wavelengths in the brain, so the kids could be there. But I think, I mean, it's not that bad because I think I have a little bit of this attention deficits myself, and I think for creativity, this is really good. I mean, mind wandering is a good thing, you know, to imagining things. And you see, imagination is very important in classroom as well, because people say that if you imagine things, it not became a memory. But some researchers showing that they are wrong. I mean, imagining memories. So if I imagine be like Christ, I say, let's say I pass through a bad experience in traffic and I get angry with some driver and I not forgive him. No, I but I can imagine differently. I can imagine that I'm like Christ and I pass through a different situation, a trauma or a bad situation in traffic, and I say and I imagine that I'm like Christ and I can forgive him. I can say, okay, my friend, that's not bad, it happened. This imagination of myself be something different than myself, it forms a memory. It could be an episodic memory that are connecting to my identity. So you see, imagine and be more like Christ, make me be more like Christ, because imagination is the way that this is very interesting. I mean, this paper is an old one. They are studying spiritists, people who believe that in another lives. So they put these guys in the scanning, so to see their brain activity, and they when they are regretting to a different life. So I imagine to be a king or a queen for some place in the past. They are accessing their hippocampus. So the researchers say, okay, if they are accessing their hippocampus, it means that they have the memory, they live that experience. But actually, nowadays, you know that word only imagination. So it's very interesting how imagination is powerful in education. Uh, a mental time travel, reconsolidation. Yeah, when you reactivate the memory. Yes, yes. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure. I mean, really good to talk about it. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. I mean, sometimes it seems that people, because this ministry has a different place to be, I understand that when I talk about spirituality in the secular schools, people don't like it because they, no, this is not a place to talk. Go to the church. And when I go to the church and talk about neuroscience, and how the brain is changing and things like that, people say, no, no, this is not the place. Go to the university. Here is only faith. So connecting all the places is very hard. So it's very good to have a space when you can work interdisciplinary. Good. Wow, it's good. Oh, this is good. Where did you go in vacation? Oh, Legoland. My son will love it. How it was? I mean, Oh, good, good. Hmm. Oh, great. Oh, this is great. I mean, this is, yeah. Yeah, myself, yes. Well, for me, you want to do it again? Because I think I no, it's fine. Well, then just I take a book here, because the coaches is here, not fell off all the structure. Okay. Well, uh, I've been in Mexico last year, participating in a conference called Con tu Consejo. It's a biblical counseling conference, but I have no idea when they invite me. I have four, five talks in those conference about this neuroscience, and I didn't know about the main subject of the conference when I were there. Uh, but I realized that there's a lot of nice academic work with biblical counseling in neuroscience. So I just wrote this book. I just read this book from Jeremy Pierre, as is Spanish. So I'm learning Spanish. You see, it's very good book, very good because it connects the theology of biblical counseling, and this is for traumas. Is La dinámica del corazón, la vida cotidiana. Is the dynamic of the heart. I think might be in English. It's really good, and because of that, I think I'm start to studying Spanish more deeper. I mean, I'm able to talk Spanish because it's very similar to Portuguese. I've been in Uruguay many times, and I always said to them, next time I'll be teaching because usually I teach in English there, and it's a shame, right? Because you are all Latin, so you should talk Spanish. And always I said, no, next time I'll be speaking Spanish, and I never, since 2023, I never learned. So now I decided, I say, I go into go deep in Spanish, and I learn it. And this experience in Mexico, it's helping me a lot. I'm reading a lot of Spanish, watching videos, and listen music. So Spanish is very good language. So a new language for me. It's what is going on right now. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, just I was reminded when you are talking about because a new language is something different in neurolinguistic in the brain. What happens is you need to find different words and way to say those words for the same meaning, right? So you have what this word represents. And I have this attention syndrome, right? I really sometimes I lost my focusing. And pay attention is something that consumes a lot of energy in the brain. So you need to have a lot of ATP, a lot of energy, so you sleep well to have be focusing on the student, on what you're the subject you are studying. And a second language, and you speak about neuroscience and theology in the second language is really hard. So it consumes a lot of energy in the brain. And when the brain gets tired, so the way that the brain regenerate and make rest a little bit is to use these slow brain waves, related to mind wandering and daydreaming. So it's good because I learn how to rest my brain while I'm talking to you. So it's yeah, okay. Okay. Hi guys. My name is Paulo. I would say a former neuroscientist. I used to work in academy, teaching and making research, but I have a call from God, and now I'm a missionary. But I like to use this knowledge to help you out, the teachers during their activities, and give them tools to be equipped to work with students, to work with transformational education. So for the beginning of the year, is starting a new cycle in their lives, in your lives. I would say to use a lot of energy of your time to try to do as best as you can, because we know that teaching is very hard. For those who are teachers, we understand that it's difficult to make the students be connected to what you have to teach. So using your personality, your tools, your skills to try to address this issue and make the classroom a nice place for the students express themselves. So it's good when you teach what you have to teach, so the curriculum, but it's even nicer when you can make the students feel glad to be inside classroom. So I think this is the for the start of the year, this is the most important thing, to make classroom a good environment for everyone to be there. So they desire to be there, and the learning came in consequence of that. It was just improvisation because I don't but mm, okay. Now, okay, okay, okay. Uh, may I? Sure. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Paulo Jobim. I'm a missionary, but I work with neuroscience, so it's a different type of mission. I've been school teachers for many years in my life, and now I know the way that neuroscience can help people to building relationship with the students, to support the students, to make them learn, make their flourishing as human beings. So I would say that throughout the year, we have a lot of challenges in the classroom. We have neurodivergent students nowadays, which are really common thing in classrooms. So sometimes we feel a little bit loose how to teach to these students, how to get in touch with these students. But the good thing is, I mean, teachers are essential for those students, and teachers are the one important thing inside the whole education processing. So by the end of the year, I understand, and this is normal because I feel that as well, that teachers became sometimes exhausting, sometimes really tired of doing that. But keep going, because not only the years is finishing, but because you are doing a great job. And as much as you can, try to find material that support in your well-being, your mental health. Talk to other colleagues, trying to find resources in psychology, especially positive psychology is really good, in churches. So understand that you have a mission that is really important, and your contribution to the students, you cannot see it happening, but I'm sure as a neuroscience that their brains are understanding who you are, your personality, your teaching, and they are using that to build their identities. So keep doing as best as you can, and God is using you to this process.